The Pursuit of Happiness was a 2006 movie that took the world by storm. The movie starred Will Smith as Chris Gardner, whose life the movie was based on, and his son Jaden Smith as Gardner's 5-year-old son, Christopher Jr. Chris Gardner, during this period, had financial troubles and was homeless for nearly a year. Gardner and his son were forced to sleep in restrooms of stations and sometimes at homeless shelters. And this movie, largely due to Will Smith's acting prowess, did a great job of taking you through the hell the protagonists were going through. So in the end, when Gardner finally landed the job he'd been interning for, you could feel the collective sense of relief that the protagonists, and we the audience, felt. To this day, the only criticism I still have of this movie is that it was titled The Pursuit of Happiness instead of being titled The Pursuit of Relief. These are the types of movies that shaped our beliefs about the concept of happiness. These movies propagated the myth that happiness is a place, that happiness is a destination you can arrive at, just like Will Smith and his son arrived at the destination of happiness at the end of that movie. And this is the myth that leaves a lot of people stuck in a state of constant pursuit of happiness. The myth that keeps most people unhappy. To become a happy person, you need to first and foremost understand a concept about the emotions you have through the course of your day. The scale of emotions. Think of a scale that constitutes different emotions we can move through during our day. All the range of emotions we can feel, from the negatives to the positives, can be found on this scale of emotions. From the lowest, which are the negatives, to the highest, or the positives. The emotional states that are on this scale of emotions are apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, pride, courage, acceptance, love, and peace. Now, each of these emotional states is like a blanket that encompasses hundreds of emotions we can feel throughout the day. Inside each blanket are emotions that your language hasn't even gotten around to naming yet. For instance, being in a state of apathy, which is the lowest or the most negative state you can be used to broadly define feeling helpless, hopeless, depressed, defeated, or in despair. If you're in an emotional state of courage, which is a much more positive and energetic feeling, you might feel assured, capable, alive, confident, and have clarity. What all the movies we've watched over the years have taught us is that happiness is an emotional state on a scale that's probably close to the top, that if we work hard enough, if we make as much money as we can, we'll finally get to arrive at that state. But as you can see, happiness isn't even an emotional state on this scale of emotions. Another thing you should know is that we move up and down the scale throughout our day. We're never static. It's impossible to be static. This is because events will unfold outside of us regardless of whether we want these events to occur or not. And since we're never static, and since happiness isn't a state on the scale of emotions you can work towards, let me propose a more practical definition of what happiness can truly mean. I'll say happiness is the conscious act of moving up on the scale of emotions regardless of the point you're currently at. For instance, moving up from apathy to fear is being happy. Moving up from anger to courage is being happy. Moving up from love to a state of peace is being happy. Therefore, you can say that a happy or positive person is a person that's proficient at moving up. And because this person does it so much that it's almost automatic, he spends his day predominantly from the emotional state of courage upwards. This isn't to say that the positive or happy person won't have experiences that would knock him down to a state of pride, anger, fear, or apathy, but this person has become so proficient in moving up that he doesn't spend so much time in these lower states. Now, hold that thought, because we have to now discuss another key factor that contributes to why most people aren't happy or positive. The negativity bias. Researchers for years have found that we have a bias towards negative events and emotions. This bias is that we tend to feel negative emotions more strongly than we feel the positive. So much strongly that we tend to remember the events attached to these negative emotions far more vividly than their positive counterparts. We're more reactive to negative emotions, and we tend to dwell longer on these emotions than on the positive ones. It's important, on your way to becoming a happy and positive person, to pay attention to the negativity bias because, as I said earlier, we're never static. No matter how bad you think your life is, no matter how much your day is dominated with feelings of fear, anger, and despair, I can bet you top dollar that if you intentionally track your day, you'll see events that give you moments of courage, flashes of joy, and fleeting moments of peace. The point is, your experiences can't be all negative, and they can't be all positive. But because of the negativity bias, you have a strong tendency to fixate on the negatives. Think about that day at work where you had pleasant customers all through, your coworkers were amicable, you were personally on your A game, everyone was impressed with your performance, and people were actually praising you to your face. But on your way out the door for the day, your manager called you into his office and gave you some constructive criticism on areas he thinks you could do better. When you get home and your spouse asked you how your day was, the only thing you remembered about that colorful day you just had was your manager's criticism. So, you said your day sucked. That's your negativity bias at play. But if we go a little deeper into negativity bias, we start unveiling things you won't see anyone else talk about on the internet. The knowledge gap. Researchers know that we have a negativity bias, but they can't pinpoint what causes this bias in most people. They try to somewhat explain it as a byproduct of our built-in survival mechanism. They claim that the bias is the way we survived when we were living in the wild with dangerous predators. They claimed our survival mechanism automatically tunes up the negatives so we can quickly decide to either run or fight for our survival. But your manager giving you constructive criticism isn't the same situation as coming face to face with a saber-toothed tiger. And that's where the fight or flight argument falls apart. And that's why the mainstream body of research hasn't yet caught up to why most people have a negativity bias. But I'm here to tell you why you have a negativity bias. Emotions are physical energy in motion. And what these emotions want from you is for you to feel them, so they'll be on their way. The difference between positive and negative emotions is that the positives are pleasant to feel and the negatives are unpleasant to feel. So when positive events occur, we tend to revel in them. We feel them in their totality and they pass through us. But we handle our negative emotions entirely different. Because we've been trained from our childhood that negative emotions are bad and we should do everything in our power not to feel bad. When negative events occur, we do everything in our power not to feel them by either escaping or expressing these emotions. And these, in turn, cause these negative emotions to be suppressed or repressed in our subconscious minds. Think of all the traumatic events you've gone through. Think of all the times someone's told you you aren't good enough. Think of every time you failed. Think of all the negative experiences you failed to deal with. And in one way or the other, you've either suppressed or repressed. Imagine all these suppressed or repressed negative emotions coming together to form a huge physical ball of negative energy somewhere in your body. So whenever a negative event occurs, because the energy signature of the negative event is similar to the energy signature of the huge ball of negative energy that's already in you, the huge ball of negative energy gets triggered. This energy that's now activated gets so big in intensity that it draws in more negative thoughts. You recall more negative memories, and that single negative becomes more real and more vivid in your mind. And this is what researchers call having a negativity bias. The positivity bias. What you'll never hear the researchers say is that as there's a negativity bias, there can also be a positivity bias. I didn't even know this existed until I started working on myself and I became a predominantly positive person. When you become a positive person, the huge ball of negative energy in you has diminished, that its attractive properties have reduced. And not only that, but you've also built up a huge ball of positive energy that's far bigger than the negative ball that you used to have. At this stage of positivity bias, instead of finding more negatives to latch onto, you automatically find the positives. And even when something that seems negative occurs, you'll instinctively put a positive spin on it. And at this stage, you've become what most people would call a positive person. You've become a person, as I said earlier, who's become proficient at moving up the emotional scale at will. At this stage, I'm sure the question on your mind is, how do you diminish your huge negative ball of energy and build up the positive ball of energy? How do I become a predominantly positive person? Or in other words, how do I get proficient at moving up the emotional scale? In this video, I'll go through the 4 simple steps that you can start doing today that will turn you into a predominantly positive person. And at the end, you'll learn an advanced technique that works like magic. That's if you stick around till the end of this video. So let's get into those simple steps. Step 1. Practice awareness. You can't change anything that you're not even aware of in the first place. So, the first step in changing into a happier and more positive person is to be aware of the negative emotions you have and be aware of the big ball of negative emotional patterns you've built up over the years. A way to be more aware of your emotional state is through your thoughts. Think of the files and folders on a computer. Your thoughts are like files that are contained in a folder of emotions. A folder of emotional state can hold files of thousands of thoughts reflecting that emotional state. To delete a file or reframe a file doesn't mean the folder is gone. But the idea is that as these files of thought flash on your screen of your mind, you can start reframing them one by one. And the more files you reframe, the more the context of the folder of emotional state itself changes. Of course, you could just delete the folder, and that's the easiest thing to do, but that's an advanced technique called letting go, which I'll discuss later. So, to recognize the file of thought, you need to be aware of the existence of this file in the first place. The only tool you can start using right now that'll make you proficient at being aware of your thoughts and emotional states is what is known as mindfulness meditation. Different apps out there can train you to become proficient at meditating, but the app that I've been using for more than 3 years that I always recommend is the Waking Up app. It has introductory classes that can help you get the hang of meditation and make the habit stick. Step 2. Practice acceptance. After you start becoming more aware of your negative thoughts, your negative emotions, and your pattern around them, it's time to start accepting them as an integral part of you and as an integral part of the world. In the words of Mark Manson, the author of The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F, the acceptance of the negative experience is a positive experience on its own. Accept that the external negative events that happen are integral parts of life that you have no control over. No matter what you do, a close relative might face an untimely demise. You might get served those divorce papers, and the recession might cause you to lose your job. The only thing you can control is how you react to these negative events. The only thing you can control is your internal emotional state after the fact. Accept that you already have a huge ball of negative energy inside of you. And accept that when these external negative events occur, you'll feel bad at first. Accept that feeling. Stop resisting it. It's normal and human to feel bad. But what you want to ultimately start doing is learning how not to wallow in this negative for an extended period. You want to learn how to move up the emotional scale. And to get proficient at moving up the emotional scale as fast as you can, the next step is a habit you need to get into. Step 3. Practice gratitude. Whenever you're grateful for something good in your life, you move up the emotional scale. And the good part is that no matter how shitty life gets, everybody has something they can be grateful for. So, when these seemingly negative events occur in the future, the first thing is to be aware of your patterns around negative events, and the next step is to accept the negatives as an integral part of life. Don't try to fight or resist these emotions that'll come up. And amid that negativity, just start thinking of the good things in your life that you can be grateful for. Let's say someone you love died and you're grieving. If you can acknowledge the pain you're going through as a natural part of the grieving process and instantly think to yourself, well, I'm sad that Dad's gone, but I'm grateful for the time I shared with him. I'm grateful for all the good memories I made with this man. He truly was the best dad in the world. What you'll notice is that a tiny shift in your mood instantly occurs. It isn't a jump to the level of feeling at peace yet, but you've moved up the emotional scale. Or let's look at that day at work when your boss gave you constructive criticism on your way home. Instead of telling your spouse that your day sucked, what if you told her you're grateful for the pleasant customers you had and you're grateful for the pleasantness your coworkers showed you today? Or that you're grateful for your A-game performance that led to a lot of positive feedbacks from people at work. That would have changed your perception of your day, and it would even change that of your spouse's. Gratitude forces you to focus on the positives in your life, no matter how small those positives are. And what we focus on tends to expand. Step 4. Reframe. This is the next habit you need to master to become a happy and positive person. Reframing is the act of taking a negative event and intentionally putting a positive spin on it. And as goofy as it sounds, it works. And it doesn't cost you anything to do. When you first start doing these techniques, it'll be difficult at first because of the huge ball of negative energy you've been carrying around all your life. But if you stick with it and give your negative ball of energy time to shrink a little bit, then it'll get easier. And after a while, it becomes instinctive. You now become a person who has a positivity bias. And anytime something screwball happens to you, you'll instantly say, you know what, this will turn out to my advantage. And you'll mean what you say to your core. When something screwball happens, you'll feel sad as you should, but your ability to get yourself up the emotional scale would have been sharpened. Advanced step: letting go. To become a master of positivity, you need to learn the act of letting go. Remember I said that emotions are like folders holding files of thoughts? Instead of reframing the files of thought one after the other, the letting go technique is you going to delete the folder of emotion once and for all. It's getting rid of that physical ball of negative energy directly, once and for all. And once this negative energy is gone, it's gone forever. And as the name of the technique suggests, letting go is literally letting go of negative emotions. It sounds simple, and it is easy to do once you get the hang of it, but it's an advanced technique that requires elaborate teaching. That's why I've dedicated a video to the technique that you can watch up here if you want to learn the technique of letting go. In summary, being a happy or positive person is a habit that becomes more natural the more you do it. The problem is that most people don't work on this habit long enough before they're overridden by their huge ball of negative energy. Their gravitational field of negativity pulls them back in, and before they know it, they're back to their old ways of thinking. To break this cycle, follow the steps outlined in this video, which are: Number 1. Become aware of your negative thoughts and your negative patterns. You can achieve proficiency in doing this by practicing mindfulness meditation using the Waking Up app. Number 2. Accept that negatives are an integral part of life, which you have no control over bar the way you react to them. Number 3. When the inevitable negative events happen, practice gratitude to move up the emotional scale. Number 4. Reframe these negative events into the positive to move up the emotional scale. And Number 5. To become a master, learn the act of letting go. If you made it to the end of this video, I appreciate you. If you found this video helpful at all, please destroy that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss it when I drop videos like this in the future. And if you didn't find this video helpful, I thank you for watching this long. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.